Hi, let's get you up to speed on Severance Season 2, Episode 7. We open with Gemma in a flashback on some sort of campus where, while giving blood, she meets and flirts with a younger Mark. We then flash forward to Miss Casey giving blood in a very sterile room accompanied by a very obtuse nurse. We go to Mark's place where he's still passed out and Devon is looking over him as well as Ragabi. Ragabi tells a very frustrated Devon that Gemma is still alive. We move to Gemma receiving a battery of tests as well as a curious bunch of questions from her attending nurse. Gemma asks, "How many rooms do I have to visit today?" The nurse replies, 6. Gemma and her nurse walk past several curiously named rooms as she traverses the maze-like hallway until she comes to the one she's supposed to enter. Let in by her nurse with a hand scanner, she goes in and it appears the severance process has affected her. The room she is in, and quite terrified to be in, appears to be a dentist office. The same gentleman who retrieved the dental hygienist tools a few episodes ago is there to meet her. She asks the dentist if she could possibly rest, and he says, "I haven't seen you in 6 weeks." She replies, "I was just here." This appears to be an inner version of herself that seems to be forever attending the dentist. Well, that's hell. After her dentist appointment, her outie self walks past a room called Cold Harbor. We pop in to see Devon devastated over what Mark is doing as she tends to him. Mark's memory takes him back in the past as he is courting Gemma on the campus, and then a quick scene of them together as Mark has purchased a crib. Flash forward to Mark and Gemma at Devon and Rickon's having a small dinner party. Gemma refuses wine, signaling to Devon that she is probably pregnant. We pop into the future to see that, sadly, Gemma in fact loses the baby. There's some very fancy graphics that takes us to a Lumen floor where we see Mark from the other side of his computer. He and his progress is being drastically watched by a few folks very, very, very interested in his work. We see Mr. Drummond speaking to a subordinate about Gemma's procedures. The subordinate tells Mr. Drummond,
"She's fond of me too, of course."
Didn't she try and break your fingers?
Drummond retorts. Flash to Mark and Gemma at what seems to be a fertility clinic, run by Lumen. We jump back to Gemma again being experimented on and getting a brain scan. She is questioned by the doctor.
"How many rooms did you visit today?"
6.
But this version of herself has no memory of being in any of them.
There's only one room I haven't been to yet, and today it had a name on it.
Cold Harbor.
She inquires what happens after I visit all the rooms. The attendant replies, "You'll get to see the world again, and they'll get to see you." The attendant babbles some Kier cult bull, and Gemma replies,
Can you please just talk like a normal person?
"Right?" Flash to Devon and Ragabi watching over Mark. Devon asks if she knows about a severed cabin. Ragabi calls it the Demona Birthing Retreat. Ragabi is frustrated with Devon because she doesn't know the whole story of what's going on. Devon replies, "Maybe I could call Mrs. Cobell." Ragabi flips out and threatens to leave and never come back if she calls her.
"She will turn you over to them, both of us. Everything I've done to fight, gone."
We flash to Mark and Gemma who are looking at some very curious cards that were delivered to them. They think it's from the fertility clinic, a mailing order list, but we've seen these cards before. Gemma is then shown going into yet another room. The severance process takes place and she is now on a flight, it seems, with a lot of turbulence. We then see the Lumen underlings watching Mark's progress, saying that he seems to be stuck at 96%. Gemma enters another room and another severance process happens, and it appears she is stuck forever writing thank you cards for Christmas gifts until her hands ache. She asks the subordinate, "How long do I have to do this?" He replies, "You're done. But Christmas comes once a year." She gives him a steely glance and says,
It's always Christmas.
"Is Lumen attempting to put a procedure in where you could sever yourself from unpleasant events?" We flash to Mark frustratingly failing at putting the crib together as Gemma sits in the next room, both defeated with their attempts at trying to become pregnant. We pop back into Gemma's room. As the doctor comes in, she looks at him very sadly and says, "I want to go home." The doctor looks at her and lies.
"Your husband remarried last year."
The doctor paddles on about the rooms, Gemma's progress, the experiments, and finally Gemma's had enough and... She makes her way to the export elevator, dodging her nurse, but sadly as she ascends, the severing process takes place, reverting her to the subservient Miss Casey. We go to Mark saying goodbye to Gemma as she leaves, presumably to be in the car accident she's going to be in. Gemma/Miss Casey leaves the elevator only to be met by Mr. Milchek, who spins a yarn and convinces her very easily to get back on the elevator. She descends in the elevator and the severance process takes place again. She is greeted by her nurse and just collapses. She's truly trapped. We end this episode with Mark waking up finally. I hope you're up to speed. We'll see you next week.